Morning, everyone. It's Cindy. How are you this morning? It's Sunday, Labor Day weekend. I'm coming to you from Houston. I'm in my grandson's bedroom doing this TikTok, so my lighting's kind of poor, and I'm trying to be a little bit quiet here. But I wanted to leave some thoughts about rebuilding the middle class. So remember, in Vice President Harris's comments where her whole focus that she's talking about is rebuilding middle America. I'm going to put some thoughts out there in case A, you agree, and B, they see this video that they start to think about, because you can't rebuild this system or middle America without addressing what's destroying it. Okay, so in other words, you can't throw money at a problem, right? You can't, although money's needed, so make no mistake, but you got to deal with the ways that Black women particularly their lives are being destroyed. Again, I'm out of corporate America, former HR executive. I can tell you a lot of the different things I've seen, did, participated, and led that helps build wealth in other folks' pockets, right? So the first thing I'm going to tease out this week is around the social system that Black and brown people, brown and Black women, are being pushed into when they get fired from these jobs. When you look at my intro to my show, you hear me comment about the disproportionate termination of Black women from corporate America. That shit's real. Google it if you don't believe it. And I talk a lot about, there's a video on my website from a few years ago that I talked about the 2-year life cycle of a Black woman. Start paying attention to that, because you're going to see that the pattern of the life cycle of when you bring a Black woman in, a Black woman executive, what starts to happen to her. But for this TikTok, I'm going to address the system that she gets pushed out onto when someone isn't happy with her and they take her down, or they start to question a lot of things about her leadership. There's a whole playbook for all of it. So no different than what President Harris was commenting about, the same old playbooks. They're used against Black women in corporate America a lot. But I'm going to propose that to rebuild middle America, you deal with the system that's destroying them, which is pushing them out of companies, not allowing them to climb up in the ladder. We'll talk about ladders another TikTok. But when you push them out, the system that they fall onto needs to be dealt with. And so, in other words, when you think back in 2008-ish, when the big banks went under, and, I'm up in Seattle, what happened with, like, Washington Mutual, for example, they paid out the chief executive, he had a change in control agreement. I will talk about that in another TikTok too. But part of that agreement was that he had, I want to say it was at least 2 years, because I know I've signed several, where they have a 2-year cushion, full pay, full benefits, full retirement contributions, who are getting SERPs, another TikTok, where he has an opportunity to rebuild his life. Why can't the disproportionate termination of the people that the vice president or soon-to-be president wants to rebuild deals with that? Because solving that issue around putting people out into the street and pushing them onto social systems versus giving them the same benefit that the incompetent CEOs and top tier people are receiving, the benefits that they get when they exit, so that they can land comfortably, not have to do without health insurance. They have an income coming in, time to rebuild themselves. And because that trend of terminating Black women is high, and the statistic around who's starting small businesses at the fastest rate, Black women. So just look at that pattern and say, okay, if you want to stop the bleed in these corporations and get them to levels where they can build wealth, deal with that system, because they're going to be less likely to push somebody out on the street when they have to pay them and compensate for 2 years versus the 60 days that they try to say that they give, because that is not what these guys are getting. I'm telling you that. So a lot of these little things don't get public attention because a lot of them isn't known. But if we're going to rebuild the middle class, let's start talking about it. Have a good day, everybody.